پارلمان کانادا استماع زیر کمیته حقوق بشر بین المللی. سخنرانی رئیس جمهور برگزیده مقاومت درباره نقض حقوق بشر در ایران و نقض حقوق مجاهدان اشرفی در لیبرتی 15 می 2014.
Alors, nous sommes le sous-comité des droits internationaux de la personne du comité permanent des affaires étrangères et du développement international. Aujourd'hui, le 15 mai 2014, est notre séance 28. We are continuing our study of the situation in Camp Ashraf, and joining us by video conference from Paris is Meriem Rejui from the National Council of Resistance of Iran. Ms. Rejui, I invite you to begin your testimony. Following your testimony, we will have questions from the members of the committee. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, distinguished members, good day. I would like to thank you for your attention to the ongoing human rights violation in Iran, as well as the humanitarian crisis in Camp Liberty. I also want to express my deep appreciation for all your efforts during Iran Accountability Week. Such efforts, as you said, sounds the alarm on the fourfold Iranian regime threat, which are nuclear, terrorism, incitement, and in particular, the regime's widespread and systematic violations of human rights. The situation in Camp Liberty is directly linked to the political crisis in Iran. Indeed, what is happening in Camp Liberty is the other side of the coin of suppression in Iran. Since the U.S. handed over the security of Camp Ashraf to the Iraqi government in 3 attacks on Ashraf and 3 deadly missile attacks on Liberty, 116 residents have been killed by Iraqi forces and 1,350 have been injured and 7 are still held as hostage. It is now 8 months that they are held hostage. 20 residents have also lost their lives due to medical blockade. Many years of medical blockade continue to affect even those who have left Iraq. Razi Kermanshah died yesterday in Albania because for many years she had not received the proper medical care. And Muhammad Babai passed away in Liberty on April 27 for lack of medical care. So far as the PMI members are concerned, they are paying the price for their perseverance for freedom of the Iranian people. The religious fascism ruling Iran, engulfed by political, economic, and international crisis, considers PMI as the most serious threat to its rule. The PMI is seen as the major force for change in Iran. Therefore, the regime will not spare an opportunity to strike at this organization. For this reason, Liberty residents have become the prime targets of the regime's atrocities. I would like to address 3 aspects of the situation in Liberty which are very important. security situation, living condition, and resettlement of the residents outside Iraq. The prime issue is lack of security in face of missile attacks on Camp Liberty. Trailers are overcrowded with no protective walls or bunkers for residents to take shelter at the time of missile attacks. They are completely defenseless and vulnerable. Iraq's internal conflict and worsening security situation have increased the danger for the residents. Remarks by Iraqi Minister of Justice on March 2nd and Iraq's ambassador in Tehran on April 27 regarding extradition of PMOI members in Liberty is another indication of the dangerous situation of the residents. The second issue is the living condition in Camp Liberty. Human rights of residents are being systematically violated. UN Working Group on Arbitrary Detention in 2 reports have described Camp Liberty as a prison. Residents have no freedom of movement, denied the right to have family visits or meet their lawyers, and are under medical blockade. The Iraqi government is also trying to steal residents' properties left at Camp Ashraf and has so far prevented them from selling their properties. Third issue is the resettlement of the residents. After 2.5 years since the residents started relocation from Ashraf to Camp Liberty, only 10% of the 3,200 residents have been resettled outside Iraq, and prospect for resettlement of the others looks dim, while all residents have been interviewed by UNHCR. The question is what to do now. 1. The first step is an independent international investigation into the killings, in particular the massacre of 52 residents and abduction of 7 on September 1st, 2013. These are the photo of 52% who have been massacred in September 1st in Ashraf. And had there been an independent investigation about the first massacre and had its perpetrators been brought to justice, we would not have seen the following massacres. Such investigation would be a preventive measure. Therefore, I urge you and the International Human Rights Committee to call on the government of Canada to initiate such an investigation by a relevant international authority. 2, the international community must provide security for the residents so long as they are in Camp Liberty by stationing international observers and a unit of blue helmets in the camp, by offering financial and logistical support for such an initiative. The government of Canada can remove all obstacles and excuses. And 3, violation of the residents' human rights is part of the ongoing human rights violations in Iran. Families of the 3,000 Liberty residents in Iran are also suffering, as many of them have been arrested, abused, some executed, and a number of them are on death row. This matter must be addressed at the UN Security Council. And I call on the Canadian government to raise this matter in the third committee of the UN. 4. Finally, the government of Canada can play an active role in the relocation of the residents by accepting a group of refugees from Camp Liberty and contribute to the cost of the relocation and encourage countries to take more refugees. In the end, I would like to thank the government of Canada and the Parliament for the firm position towards the Iranian regime. In recent years, the government cutting off diplomatic ties with the Mullah's regime and parliamentarian support for the Iranian resistance have been heartwarming for our people in their efforts to achieve freedom. The regime has intensified suppression because it feels more vulnerable. Despite claims of moderation by the regime's president, there have been more executions over the past year compared with any other year in the past 25 years. Last month, political prisoners in the Eden prison were brutally attacked by prison guards. The mullahs have intensified their attacks on Ashraf and Liberty, and in such circumstances, Canada's support for human rights in Iran, freedom, and Iranian resistance is more effective than any other time. Our objective is a free and democratic Iran, a republic based on separation of religion and state, gender equality, and rule of law. A new Iran with no discrimination against religious or ethnic minorities, and a non-nuclear Iran. I thank you for your attention and would like to hear your views. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your testimony.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Ms. Rajavi, for your presentation, and certainly all of us do appreciate it. Well, there are many promises kind of made to the residents of Camp Ashraf during their relocation by the UN, by the United States, and Iraq, to name a few. So So can you elaborate on the current conditions inside the Camp Liberty and how this limits the safety and security of the residents there?
من بعد اینجا به شما بگم که سوال خیلی مهمی کردیم. تعهدات زیادی نقض شده و اولین در واقع تعهدی که نقض شده وضعیت حفاظت و امنیت کمپ لیبرتی. واقعیت اینه که کمپ لیبرتی از هیچ امنیتی برخوردار نیست. همه ساکنان در بنگال های تلمبار شدن که هیچ حفاظتی نداره. من اینجا عکس در واقع این تریلر ها رو دارم که نشون میده و این شرایطی هستش که قبلا که آمریکایی‌ها در این کمپ بودن در بالا که همه تریلرها تیوال داشتن، تیوال حفاظتی، و الان این شرایط پایین عکس هست که هیچ حفاظی نداره. در زمانی که آمریکایی‌ها در این کمپ مستقر بودن این تراکم جمعیت نبود. ولی با این حال این بنگال ها توسط 17500 تیوال حفاظت میشد و بعد از انتقال ساکنان عراق همه تیوال ها را از این کمپ خارج کرد و بعد از 2 سال فشار تا الان تنها اجازه دید که فقط 740 تا تیوال نصب شه. متاسفانه عراق اجازه نمیده که ساکنان حتی با پول خودشون سنگر به اندازه کافی تهیه کنن و یا وسایل فردی حفاظتی خودشون از جمله جلیقه و کلاه خود رو از اشرف منتقل کنن. واقعیت اینه که ساکنان در مقابل حملات موشکی کاملا آسیب پذیرن و از طرف دیگه وضعیت امنیتی در کل عراق در ماه‌های اخیر وخیم‌تر شده. لیبرتی فاقد استانداردهای شناخته شده بین‌المللیه و علی‌رغم اینکه طی 2 سال گذشته ساکنان به طور مستمر در حال کار کردن هستند، ولی به دلیل محدودیت‌هایی که دولت عراق ایجاد می‌کنه هنوز حداقل‌های زندگی در اینجا وجود نداره. زمین‌های اونجا تماماً سنگلاخه، هیچ ساختمانی بتونی وجود نداره، ساکنان آزادی رفت آمد ندارن و همچنان که گفتم گروه کار بازداشت اجباری سازمان ملل اون رو یک زندان توصیف کرده و نکته مهمتر دسترسی ساکن لیبرتی به معالجه پزشکی بسیار محدوده. تا به حال 20 نفر به دلیل عدم دسترسی پزشکی جان باختن.
Thank you. Mr. Marston, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'm pleased to address the President Rajafi this morning. I think due to the fact that we have a television audience for this committee, a couple of points should be made. Madam President is testifying today from Paris in exile. And the other thing is, and I'll ask you a direct question so that you can answer it. How long was Camp Ashraf in existence before the transition camp of Liberty was put in place?
در واقع من باید به شما بگم که کمپ اشرف 26 سال وجود داشت و میدونید که اونجا یک صحرای خشک بود که به دست خود ساکنان به عنوان یک شهر بسیار مدرن با همه امکانات اونجا ساخته شد و برای اون صدها میلیون دلار خرج شده که همین الان تمام اموال در واقع ساکنان در اونجا باقی مونده و از علی‌رغم اینکه تعهد یونامی سازمان ملل، آمریکا و دولت عراق بود که بعد این اموال بتونه به وسیله ساکنین و نمایندهشون به فروش برسه برای بازشگان اونها، چنین اجازه بهشون ندادن.
Last year, or I guess it's longer than that now, time does fly, we had testimony at this committee regarding the concerns about the safety of the people being moved from Ashraf to Liberty, and you've described very well how Ashraf had developed into a reasonably safe community. Even at that, it was under attack from time to time. And our understanding at the time that was Camp Liberty would be a place where the UNHCR could do the interviews. And if I understood your testimony today, you said that those were all completed. Am I correct in that?
بله کاملا اطلاعات شما دقیقه. الان مصاحبه های کمیساری عالی پناهندگان به طور کامل انجام شده.
The interviews were to allow people from other countries to view these people in the camps for potential transfers to their countries. And clearly from your testimony today, that has only happened in a very, very modest way. And you've stressed where you believe Iran's been involved with trying to persuade people not to take them.
شما میدونید که رژیم ایران در مطبوعات علنی و در خبرگزاری هاست به وسیله مقامات شناخته شده اینو اعلام کرده و فشارش به کشورهای اروپایی آورده. من برای اینکه اطلاعات دقیق بشم در سپتامبر 2011 کمیسر عالی پناهندگان اعلام کرد که همه ساکنان اشرف که رسما درخواست پناهندگی به این سازمان دادن پناهجو محسوب شدن و از حفاظت بین‌المللی برخوردارن. اما عراق اجازه نداد که کمیسریال معمول تعیین استاتوی پناهندگی رو طی کنه. نزدیک به 6 ماه این کار به تعویق افتاد. به ساکنان قول دادن که کمپ لیبرتی موقته و بعد از ورود به کمپ به سرعت افراد بازسکان خواهند شد. حتی گفته شد که سیاستی درهای چرخان خواهد بود. به این ترتیب که یک گروه 400 نفری که به لیبرتی بره تا زمانی که گروه بعد بره، گروه اول بازسکان خواهد شد. ولی بعد از 2 سال اندی تنها 10% ساکنان به خارج منتقل شدند. اما از طرف دیگه همچنان که گفتم رژیم ایران شدیداً فعاله که مانع از پذیرش افراد توسط کشورها بشه. و من فکر میکنم که سیاست مماشاتی که میخواد منافع یا ملاحظات با ایران رو در نظر بگیره یکی از جدی‌ترین موانع.
Do you have any direct evidence of direct Iranian physical force intervention at Ashraf or Liberty?
خیلی از دستوراتی رو که دولت عراق روی کمپ لیبرتی و اشرف اعمال میکنه مستقیم از طرف سفارت ملاها در بغداد به اونها ابلاغ میشه. همین الان نیروی قدس در اطراف لیبرتی ایستگاه زده و شما میدونید که تایر بومدرا در واقع نماینده رسمی سازمان ملل گفت که تمام تصمیمات در مورد اشرف و لیبرتی در سفارت ملاها گرفته میشه در بغداد.
We go now to our next questioner, Mr. Sweet.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you, Ms. Rajabeh, for being with us today and providing some very critical testimony regarding your people who have just had to live through horrendous conditions, and many have not survived. You've mentioned a couple of occasions here today, and Colonel Wesley Martin, who's been before this committee a number of times, has mentioned as well the relationship between Iran and Iraq. And I think those people who are viewing our proceedings, many of them may not know the history. There's obviously lots of bloodshed in the past between Iraq and Iran, and you and your people came to Camp Liberty, and now there seems to be a collaboration together. Can you explain how this has transpired?
دقیقاً شما میدونید که از وقتی که حفاظت اشرف که به وسیله نیروهای آمریکایی تامین میشد از آمریکایی‌ها به عراق منتقل شد، در واقع توطئه‌های رژیم ملاها در همکاری با رژیم مالکی اوج گرفت. به خصوص شما میدونید که حکومت عراق به پشتوانه و حمایت خامنه‌ای و دیکتاتوری مذهبی حاکم بر ایران تونست به نخست وزیری برسه و ما به ازاش قولی که به خامنه‌ای داده بود این بود که تمام سیاست‌های تهران رو در مورد مجاهدین در اشرف و لیبرتی اعمال کنه. شما میدونین الان همه ارگان‌های امنیتی و سیاسی عراق تحت کنترل رژیم ایرانه. ما یک لیست 32,000 نفره حقوق بگیر رو در این رابطه از افرادی که تو عراق از تهران حقوق میگرفتن فاش کردیم و شما میدونید که الان در واقع بیش از 2 هفته است که از انتخابات عراق دوباره گذشته. کسی که مستمر الان مشغول صحبت هست با در واقع طرفهای عراقی برای اینکه بتونه دولت جدید رو تشکیل بده باز نیروی قدس. شما میدونید که الان در واقع حاکم واقعی عراق قاسم سلیمانی رئیس نیروی قدسه. و میدونیم مقامات آمریکایی رسما اعلام کردن که 70% انفجارها در عراق توسط رژیم ایران انجام میشه برای دیکتاتوری مذهبی. خود اصلی مقاومت ایران به خصوص مجاهدین. به همین دلیل دیکتاتوری مشهدی فکر میکنه اگر بتونه اونا رو از بین ببره اونجا میتونه خودش رو در واقع تضمین کنه. بنابراین تمام توطئه ها علیه اشرف لیبرتی به این دلیله. خواسته یکی دیکتاتوری مذهبی هم شکنجه، اعدام و نابودی تک تک اعضای این مقاومت هست که میدونید شما ساکنین اشرف لیبرتی 1/3 از زندانیان دوران خمینی یعنی 1000 شاهد از زندانهای خمینی اینجا هستند و خامنه‌ای.
We go now to Mr. Connor. Thank you, Mr. Sweet.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I also want to express our appreciation to Mrs. Rajavi for her testimony before us today, and in particular for addressing three aspects of the situation in Liberty: the security situation, the living conditions, and the matter of the resettlement of the residents outside Iraq. I say that because these have been the subjects that have been the continuing concern of our own Foreign Affairs Subcommittee inquiring into Camp Liberty, and more recently were the subject of the testimony both by Colonel Wesley Martin and that of Jared Genzer.
Okay, well that leads me to the next question very conveniently. Colonel Wesley also mentioned the blocking of the construction of the T-walls and bunkers. How important are they for your members for safety?
فکر میکنم در شرایط موجود همچنان که من نشون دادم عکس اونجا رو خیلی مهمن تیوال ها و چون که واقعا تریلر هایی که هیچ حفاظی ندارن حمله هر موشکی به سرعت تبدیل میشه به ترکش هایی که از این دیوارها رد میشه و فرد رو به سرعت میتونه به شهادت برسونه. اگر همین میزان سنگرها نبود در همین حملات موشکی که انجام شد کشته ها و مجروحین ما بسیار بسیار بیشتر بود و کمان که اگر تعداد سنگرها و تیوالها بیشتر بشه تعداد کشته و مجروح بسیار پایین میاد. یعنی یک نقش مهم و حیاتی داره.
Ms. Rajave, this year you've talked about a medical blockade. Colonel Martin mentioned about the fact that at times they wouldn't even allow you to remove the garbage from the site so that you could have sanitary living conditions. Has there been any international personnel able to visit Camp Liberty in the last couple of months this year in 2014?
متاسفانه اجازه ورود به هیچ کس رو نمیدن. در ژانویه گذشته 2 وکیل آمریکایی ساکنان از آمریکا به عراق رفتن با تلاش بسیار زیاد و سفارت آمریکا هم در واقع دنبال کار اونا بود. تا پشت در لیبرتی رفتن و اونا وکیل در واقع ساکن ولی به اونا اجازه ورود به کمپ رو ندادن و همچنان که گفتم اجازه ورود هیچ کس رو نمیدن. هیئت‌هایی از آمریکا در واقع رفتن به بغداد، به اونام اجازه ندادن. الان هیئت‌های از انگلیس و پارلمان اروپا متقاضی هستن که برن ولی اونا هم هیچ کدوم بهشون تا الان اجازه ندادن.
Thank you, Mr. Sweet. And we'll go now to the final round of questioning to Mr. Benskin of the official opposition NDP.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony. Thank you for your words of insight. How best do you feel the Canada and the international community can aid the work in preventing an escalation in attacks?
فکر میکنم مهمترین کار یک تحقیقات مستقل بین المللی در مورد جنایات انجام گرفته است. به ویژه قتل عام سپتامبر گذشته. و من از شما میخوام که از دولت کانادا بخوایم که در صحنه بین المللی مبتکر این تحقیقات مستقل بشه و همچنین فکر میکنم که از طریق سازمان ملل تلاش بشه که تا یک کمیسیون ویژه تشکیل بشه و یا از طریق دادگاه جنایی بین المللی عاملان این جنایت در مقابل عدالت قرار بگیرن. اینا همه عناصر بازدارنده است و بسیار تعیین کننده و میتونه جلوی حملات بیشتر رو بگیره و در صورتی که در مورد حملات قبلی تحقیقات جامع صورت گرفته بود چه بسا که این قتل عام‌های بعدی اتفاق نمی‌افتاد. بنابراین من فکر می‌کنم کمیسیون شما میتونه نقش پیشتاز و تعیین کننده توی این زمینه داشته باشه و از دولت کانادا بخواین که برای جلوگیری از یک سیل بنیشتای دیگه از سازمان ملل بخواد که به طور مؤثر حفاظت ساکنان رو تا ترک عراق به عهده بگیره، کلاهابی‌ها رو اونجا مستقر کنه.
Thank you very much.
Once again, I would like to thank you for this opportunity at the end of the Iran Accountability Week. The Iranian regime historic reaction to your activities such as this hearing shows the impact and importance of your efforts. These reactions are also a reflection of its weakness and fear of its downfall. We believe that the only solution for Iran is regime change by the Iranian people and the Iranian resistance. I just want to tell you that your efforts regarding the situation in Iran is very important and fully supported by the Iranian people. Thank you very much.